Hello, my name's William Stevens, and I'm an alcoholic. And my story, I'm gonna say it from beginning till now. And I guess I'll start. I was born on December 25th, 1986, in a small town in Indiana called Connersville. And I grew up in a middle class family. It was dad. We had all our needs met, and some of our like what we wanted, he got us. He worked second and third shift mostly, and he was, I think, I found out he had a big anger problem, and I think throughout my childhood, I got physically abused, and physical and mental abuse from him. And I think the earliest that I found out that he had a real big anger problem is I was 5 years old, and I remember him coming home he was working second shift. He came home at like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I had left one of my Legos out, and he stepped on it. Well, he ended up waking me up in the dead of night and grabbed me up by my neck and threw me across the room. About broke my neck. And like throughout the years, I would get in trouble if I didn't listen to him or didn't do the right thing. I would get beat for it, and I would always, with me, I would always push his. I wanted to push his button, see how much pain I can take, and it got to the point where I was numb to pain. I couldn't feel it anymore. And he did the same things. He did me a lot worse since I was the oldest out of four boys. But my other three brothers had got some of the brunt force of it too. So I tried to, being the oldest, I tried to take more from them so they wouldn't get hurt, being the big brother. And that happened, I guess, from when I was like 5 until I was 19 when I moved out. But going back, when I didn't get it at home, I got it at school. Growing up, I was kind of an awkward child. I didn't fit in right. I would always talk to certain groups like the gothic kids, the popular kids, the sport kids. I was always all over the place. I got along with everyone. I didn't pick or choose or nothing like that. And I guess that, in their eyes, that made me a loner. So I got picked on a lot for my weight, my looks, what I wore, what I liked, and it's just being called a failure, worthless. I'm not going to amount to nothing at home, and then going to school and getting called like fat, ugly. It was just, I think when I was a child, I had held a resentment towards God. And I'm like, why am I going through this? Why are you making me go through this much pain? And I'm just saying to myself, and I'm not bad mouthing anybody, I'm not calling people names and stuff like that, and I'm still getting picked on. And throughout that, it just, everything I kind of felt like balling it up, and it was like a tumor getting ready to explode. I just balled it up, and I didn't have an outlet, because if I started talking about it, my dad would say, shut up. It's like, men aren't supposed to share their feelings. So I just kept balling that up. And if I did share some of my feelings, I would get my mouth smacked as hard as he could, and I just shut up. I quit talking about my feelings. And then it's about, I think around when I turned 10, I don't want to really get into too much about it, but I was physically molested by one of my female family members. I really don't want to say her name or anything out, like get too much into it, but I was physically molested by one of my female family members, and I once tried to speak about it and tell one of my friends at school, and their response was, a boy cannot get molested by a female. There's no way. And then all of a sudden that started going around, and I started getting made fun of because of that, and I just shut up. And I think that was about around the time where I started experimenting with alcohol. I think I was like 11 years old, and my dad had, I think my mom got into his liquor cabinet, but his cabinet was open, and I went in there, got some Crown Royal, and I had a bottle of Coca-Cola. Drank half the Coca-Cola, put half of it Crown Royal. I snuck it in the van, which my mom drove us to school in, so I was sitting in the very back, and I remember drinking the whole thing, feeling a little bit sick, and went into first period class. I was starting to get sick. I raised my hand, went to the bathroom, I threw up, and the assistant principal came by. He asked me what I was doing. I'm like, I was sick. He smelled it on me. He's like, I'm about to call your father and tell him what's going on. And I told him not to do that. Please don't do it because I'm going to get hit. I might get hurt. Please don't do that. This is about the time to where people thought physical punishment was appropriate. And it wasn't abuse or nothing. They didn't go to the authorities or anything like that. He's like, fine, I'm going to call your mother. She's going to come pick you up. You better not do it again. If you do, I'm going to tell something to your dad. I was like, all right. Because everyone in that town knew my mom and dad. They were friends with them. So after that, I quit experimenting with alcohol for a little bit. Then got into high school. To me, I'd rather take physical abuse over mental, because mental abuse, it still sticks with me today. And everything continued and got worse from grade school to middle school to high school. When I got to high school, it got a hell of a lot worse. And it's just that I got so paranoid to where I did not want to be around anybody whatsoever. It's like, if you can realize, the one kid in school that always stayed to himself in the lunchroom, always in the corner, that was me. I was always a person that I didn't want to be around people whatsoever, because I knew the ridicule and being called names. I didn't like it. And I was resorted to eating lunch in the bathroom stall in the high school. I was away from here. I had that stall to myself, and I just remember all the 4 years doing that. And for some reason, my grandparents seen that, which they were second parents to me. Like growing up, that was my safe haven, talking to them and relying on them. And when mom was drinking, she passed out, or my dad was in a bad rant and rave, I'd walk down to my grandparents, and they would help me out. She would read Bible verses to me. I'd sit there and watch wrestling with my grandpa, and my grandma said it'd be all right. Like, we'll pray on it and stuff like that. And she kind of got me into going to the church and getting back with God and praying. And she helped me out with that. She also was like, when I was going back to when I was in high school, she's like, well, you need like a little outlet for you to just take out something. Just get that out instead of using words. And she's like, why don't you play football? And I was like, all right, I'll try that. And that, to me, that was like a little turning point in my life. I played football. I played Pee Wee football. I played in middle school football. And then all of a sudden, when I got up to high school, I was still dealing with all this, but I had that big outlet where if I hit somebody that made fun of me, which there was quite a few of them on the football team, I couldn't get in trouble. So I started lifting weights, and I started bulking up, and I started looking better. And then, like, getting made fun of about my weight started going down, didn't that much, but everybody started seeing the change. I started getting bigger and better, and I really loved football. It's just that came to a screeching halt my senior year. I had a hairline fracture in my ankle a week prior to our first game, and I had busted my butt in the gyms 2 a days. I grabbed the varsity spot in tight end. I was happy for it. I was ready for it. And just my knee buckled when we were doing pass rushing drills to the dummies, and I remember my ankle swelling up to the size of a softball. Went to the hospital, and they prescribed me Vicodins and muscle relaxers, and I ended up getting hooked on. This is about the time I did not drink alcohol at the time. I went right to pills, and I just remember a couple times I was in pain. I'd take a bunch of my Vicodins and a bunch of muscle relaxer. I felt a lot better. Everything was numb. I felt good. I didn't want to do anything, and that went on for, I'd say, the rest, about 6 months of my senior year of high school. And then about that time we had an end of the year party, and went there, and I had just took some Vicodin muscle relaxers, and I was really feeling good. And one of my buddies told me, he's like, "Here, have a shot," and it was Jack Daniels. Well, I mixed that with alcohol. Next thing I know, I woke up in a room, and there's a female laying beside me. I don't even know what happened, so I'm not gonna lie about that one. I don't know what really happened with that female, but I just remember feeling like crap, and I got away from the pills and went right back to alcohol. And through this time, my dad ended up, I graduated high school with a diploma. I was taking WTCC welding, and I got certified in welding. And my dad got me my first job at Ryobi Diecast in Shelbyville, Indiana, and that went good for a couple years. I was drinking every once in a while. It wasn't an everyday thing yet. It was like every other Saturday in the month. And because I had money, I had a car, I was about to get me an apartment, and all of a sudden my cousin introduced me to Kelsey, who she became my first girlfriend. Like throughout all this time, I tried talking to females, and they were always in that group, and I was always getting made fun of them, so I just quit altogether. I would talk to certain females, but it just didn't really think of relationships throughout my childhood or like through high school and all that. And for some reason, I was actually wanting a girlfriend, wanting someone to share my life with. And I met Kelsey through my cousin Erica, and we went on our first date. And it's like after that night we really connected, and we ended up being boyfriend and girlfriend for quite a few years. I think the first 2 years of our relationship was real good. I got me an apartment, I had a car. She had just graduated high school. She got her CNA license. She was making money. I was making money. It was all good. And I was, like, every once in a while we would party. I would drink. And she really didn't want me to be in here, like, around any of my friends' wives or girlfriends, and she would get jealous. And she pretty much told me one day that she would break up with me if I kept hanging out. I'm done with you. I'm like, at this point, I'm in love. And I quit hanging out with all my friends, most of my family members, and I just dedicated my life to her pretty much. And around 2010, I found out that through her parents, I didn't believe them, but they said that they think Kelsey's cheating on me. Didn't think nothing of it. About that time, she wasn't around the house and stuff like that, and I ended up catching her at the McDonald's with another guy. So I confronted her about it. She pretty much said, "Oh, it's nobody," and nothing like that, and I didn't believe it, and I broke up with her. And I really started it. My drinking started really going uphill from there. Every day, every morning I'd wake up, I'd drink something, and just so I can get all the voices out of my head. And when I really did break up with her, all the voices that, like all the kids who made fun of me, all their voices started in my head. Her voice started in my head. My own voice started in my head, and I couldn't really take it anymore. And I just would drink every morning and every night. And I think around this time, my mom and dad got a divorce. And I knew that was coming because Mom knew how to press his buttons. My dad would punch holes in walls and stuff like that. And throughout the 23 years they were married, I knew it was coming. But I didn't realize how much that would hurt because their marriage and my grandparents' marriage, that's how I expected a relationship to be. And when they broke up, it really hurt. It hurt because for some reason, growing up, Dad taught me that a man should provide for the female. All she needs to do is take care of the house and stuff like that. Well, times have changed now, but that's how I was brought up. No matter what, you stick together. And that kind of shattered that whole perception of marriage for me. And at this time when they got the divorce, my grandpa, he ended up getting really ill. And he passed away. And that really hurt because that second father figure to me passed away. I got no one to talk to now about guy things. And that really hurt. And then my grandma, her health started going. And almost a year to his death, I remember the last thing she told me is, I told her something about me watching wrestling and stuff like that. She's like, "Oh, you remind me so much of your grandpa." And she went to bed that night and get a call at 6 o'clock in the morning. My grandma had passed away. And that, to me, that was the second time my heart broke. Because I had lost a really someone that I could talk to without getting judged. And just seeing her there laying in the hospital, it hurt. And I remember that whole day I went to no one knew about it. I went to Walmart and got me a big jug of Jack Daniels and went home, locked my door, and just drank until I felt nothing, and I passed out, and no one seen me for like a week. And I looked at my mom one morning, and she was with another guy. They were getting married. I guess it's her fiance. I forget how long they were seeing each other. I know she was seeing the guy behind my dad's back, so didn't really know how long she knew him. And she said something about the Army, and he said something about the Army, and well, they said, "Well, there's your purpose right there. Just go in there. Your grandpa did it. Your cousin's doing it." And I was like, "All right, I'll give it a shot." And went through basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And the funny thing about getting in the Army, like all the drill, like they made it out to be something to scare the crap out of me, which it wasn't. It's like everything the drill sergeants threw at me was not as worse as what my dad put me through. And I could take all their abuse, their talking and all that stuff, and they told me they would break me to build me back up. And that's what they did. They gave me so much confidence in myself, so much authority in myself. I looked at myself like I had a purpose. I have a job. I got a purpose. My life is worth living. You can help someone out. And at this point, I weighed about 250 pounds when I signed my contract because I was just depressed, stressed. I was drinking a lot. And I got done with basic training, and I went from 250 pounds to 165. I cut out. I was eating healthy. I was working out all the time. And I felt good about myself. I can look in the mirror, and I'm like, he's a really good-looking guy. And I never had that in my life. And I started actually believing in myself. I started saying that about myself. So I got in confidence, and then I went to, after I graduated basic, I went to Fort Leonard, Missouri for AIT for my job. And I was a 91 Lima, construction, automotive repair, anything with a diesel engine and hydraulics. And stopping right there, going back to basic, I met my buddy. I'm not going to say his name, But I met my buddy there. We didn't really know each other, and for some reason we clicked like that, and we started talking and stuff like that. Our lives were like similar, and how we were raised up, and how we grew up, and how we were made fun of a lot. And I really connected with him. And we had basic training together. We went to AIT together, and I was happy to have that friendship. Like if anybody messing with him, you're messing with me. Anybody mess with me, you mess with him. And that's how we had our whole dynamic. And like, it's hard for me to talk about this particular day, because I remember that whole day from 4:30 in the morning when I woke up until I went to bed that night. That whole day is burnt. And it we got our orders, our duty station. We were sent to South Korea, and we were having fun. We were there. I think we were there for like 5-6 months by this time. And I got promoted. He got promoted. We were both like actually succeeding and growing. We were getting prepared. We were getting groomed to be specialists. And after that, we were going to be sergeants. And I know it was sometime in March. I think it was like the second week in March. I forget which day it was. I was in charge of that whole day. They put me in charge of ammo detail. I remember waking up at 4:30 in the morning, getting dressed in my uniform, looking over, waking him up, reminding him you need to talk to your fiance before we leave. I'm like, you can't. I'm like, she's pregnant. You need to talk to her before we leave so we can do this. You get back and tell her what all you did. And I think the last words I remember he said to her is, "I love and miss you. I will talk to you later." And then he shut his laptop off and shut it. And that was her last. That's what she heard from him. That was his last words to her. We got back to the carpool area. I got everything ready for ammo detail. And we went close enough to North Korea's borders to the shooting range. And I remember getting everything done within an hour, so we had about 3-4 hours of playtime. And we got done, we ate our MREs, and the porta potties had not gone out there yet. And he needed to go to the bathroom. Well, this area we were at had a tree line. It was roped off. They still have live landmines over there. And he really had to go to the bathroom. Well, unannounced to me, there was an area in front of the ammo detail, well, actually in back of it, that you had 2 trees right here, but this whole open area was not blocked off. So I don't know if someone cut the rope on it or forgot to put it up. They didn't do it. And I was in charge. And I remember telling them, it's probably safe over there. Go do your business over there. I'll keep watch, make sure no one comes over here. And I was like, from me to you, I turned around, and I think I'd taken about 3 to 4 steps. And something went off. I just remember the ground moving, me getting thrown. I knew I got a concussion, but I remember turning my back on him and crawling to the ammo shack and shutting the door. I didn't look behind me to see what had happened, and I remember calling the captain and the first sergeant and telling them something had happened. We don't know what happened. I don't know where he is. I'm in the shack. You need to send someone out here. I don't know if we're getting attacked. I honestly don't know. And they checked the area. I was still in the shack. The first sergeant with a couple of the MPs grabbed me real quick. They didn't give me time to move my head, so I didn't really see anything around me. They took me to the hospital, and I got checked out. I've had a concussion. I didn't have any shrapnel or anything in me, so I just had a really bad concussion. And I remember going home that night to the barracks, and I remember putting my key card in and opening the door. And in my head, I knew what had happened, but I did not want to believe it. And I went in my room, and I looked over at his side, and he wasn't there. I remember shutting the door, and sergeant on duty came to me and asked me if I was all right. And I told him I just got a headache. I'm just waiting on him to return so he can talk to his fiance. And he had told me he didn't make it. And at this point, he asked me if I was all right, and I pretty much lied to him. I was like, yeah, I'm all right. And I remember shutting the door, sitting in my bed, and just thinking of how many ways we could have done that differently, and why'd I have to be the one in charge? Why? And just sitting there in bed, I think that's what mentally broke me right then and there, is me being a failure. And the voices started coming back. I mean, bad. They all was good for nothing, worthless, can't do nothing right. You're a failure. You couldn't even keep someone alive. And I remember going out there and getting the cheapest rice liquor they had over in Korea, and buying bottle after bottle. And I know one morning I woke up, the captain wanted to see me. I remember drinking a couple of shots before I went and talked to him, and he looked at me, and he seen I was done. I wasn't in it anymore. And he looked at me, he's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're a broken soldier. We can't have you on the field hurting somebody else. I'm sorry to say it to you. We're honorable discharging you, and you're going to be starting your paperwork tomorrow. And that was the second blow I had. I just got my purpose taken away. Why am I living? When all of a sudden I had a purpose in life. I was in a good spot in my life, and all of a sudden one incident just shot and killed everything I had planned. Because of one freak accident. It shouldn't even happen. Like a minute doesn't go by in my head that I blame myself for his death. Even though it was out of my hands, I still think it was my fault because I was in charge. And just hearing that from my captain, I just remember going back and chugging one of the big bottles of rice liquor and just blacking out. And I remember having my paperwork on the bedstand. Woke up that morning, drank a little bit, get my paperwork signed. It went on from there until I got discharged. And as soon as I got discharged, my mom wanted me back, come back live with her. That's all right. And my ex got a hold of me, and she wanted to get back with me, which was a stupid mistake. I shouldn't have got back with her. That lasted for a good week and a half, and I thought the love was still there, and it wasn't. And that was a big mistake on my part. It was she what to me it's she was my only girlfriend throughout this whole time. I've only had one girlfriend my whole life, and I thought that love was still there, and I didn't want it to change. And she told me one morning that she was only with me just until he got out of jail. And as soon as she told me that, it's like I thought my heart was repaired when I got back with her, but it wasn't. It was just taped up and it got re-broke. And having my buddy pass away, getting discharged from the Army, and thinking getting back with my ex, Kelsey, was the best thing to help me out through all that situation. It's just nothing was going right in my life whatsoever. Every time I tried to do something I thought it would work out, it didn't. And I would turn to alcohol every time. And this little thing happened in 2014, 2 weeks after I got discharged. And I did another mistake, is Mom didn't want me to live with her right now because she was getting her life back together. So the only person I could turn to was my dad. And I hated it, but I didn't want to live on the streets or homeless, so I called my dad and I ended up living back with him. And he really didn't care. He's like, just stay out of the way, do what you need to do. It's like, get you a job and stuff like that. And I got a job, and I was living in the basement. I just remember getting home from work and going to CVS and getting their generic, like, rum that's like 80 proof, going to the basement and just streaking myself to sleep because of all the images I was thinking of what happened over there in Korea and all the abuse I went through as a kid. And when I was at school, getting called all the names, and then Kelsey breaking up with me and cheating on me with a child molester. Like all that, I would ball it up, and I really did not feel like talking about it, because every time I've tried talking about any of my feelings, I would get made fun of, and I didn't like that. So I would just ball it up, and one day my dad went off on me, started yelling at me, and I had a car at the time, so I was up there after I was buzzing really good off of some rum I drank. Went to Mom's house, and she's like, you can live here for now, but here in the next couple of weeks you need to think about getting your own place. And I felt rushed, so in my head I'm like, man, I'm not wanted anywhere. I can't do anything right. I'm not wanted anywhere. And I had a little bit of cash on me at the time, so I went to Walmart, bought me a fifth of vodka and some Tylenol PMs. And this was the first time I attempted suicide. And I just remember what would be the easiest way to go out without feeling pain. sleeping pills. So I took I had like 100 count of them, and I would pour a handful of pills in my hand, put them in my mouth, down it with vodka, and this went on about 3 or 4 times, and my body felt like it was just drained, and my eyes felt heavy, and I thought I actually did. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna actually feel happy away from everyone. And turns out I ended up waking up in the hospital. I was in and out of consciousness a couple times, and I remember my mom calling somebody on the phone. It's like, he's not gonna make it. You need to start calling around his friends and family members. He's not gonna make it. I ended up making it, and I remember waking up and my mom being right beside my side, and she's like, don't you ever do that again. You made me miss work. And as soon as she said that, I'm like, really? I just tried to kill myself, and all you're worried about is your work. I'm like, thanks. And honestly, I wanted to jump out the window, but can't do that at hospitals. And just from like 2014 until I'd say 2016, I was like that. I tried about 3 times between 2014 and 2016 to kill myself, and each time I failed at it, and I got to the point where I'm like, I can't even kill myself, and so I'm not even going to try anymore. It's like I was a failure at that, and I just started drinking more, heavier, drinking everything I could find, just drink it. And at this point, I went into the hospital made me go to a treatment center, and the first one I went to was Access, and I completed that, and I came here the first time. I was only here for like 12 hours at Good Shepherd, and that's when my will kicked in. I don't need this. I'm like, I got this on my own. I know what to do. I just can't drink. And I relapsed within maybe a half a day. I started drinking again. Did that. I think it was a couple months later, I found out I had VA benefits. I'm like, all right, they can actually help me out. And went to the Dayton VA. I was going through withdrawal up there, and someone's like, you can go into the treatment center they got over there. Like, we just got to make a phone call and we'll get you in there. I'm like, all right. Went in there the first time, and it helped me out a little bit. They put me in like an 8-week PTSD course. It helped me out a little bit. And then I went through the I'd say the drug abuse program they had over there, and then they put me in a like a mental health course for a couple weeks too. And I thought I kicked it again. Thought I kicked my alcoholism, and I was good. I was good for a little bit. I hit 90 days sober, and in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm actually proud of myself. I'll go celebrate. And it didn't work out whatsoever. I'm like, just one sip. I'll take like one sip or one shot, and I'll be done with it. I'll be good. No, as soon as I took that first shot, I couldn't stop again. And I ended up at Access again. I graduated there, relapsed again, and this would go on. I went to about 8, like all this combined from 2016 till now, I've been to about 8 treatment centers. And all this time, I was thinking, I don't need to do the steps. I don't need to get a sponsor. I got this on my own. And everything it failed. I did not read the book. I didn't get the sponsor. I didn't listen to anything. I would listen to my own head. I would say, I got this, and it just failed miserably. Each time I hit the ground running every time. And this last time I realized something. I remember the day too. It was November 26th of 2019. I had already relapsed again, and I waited on my mom and stepdad to leave. And I remember it was raining out and it was real cold. Got on my bicycle. And this is when I was living in Greenville. Went 2 miles down to the marathon, and buying 2 half-gallons and putting it in my backpack and driving back and riding back. And I remember I was on a mission that day. I only had to drink until I passed out. Then I'd wake back up a couple hours later, drink again. And I was drinking that morning, and I remember drinking that first half a gallon and could not pass out. And I was stumbling. I remember everything was numb. I was stumbling. I couldn't even get to my feet. And I remembered that, I got another half a gallon upstairs. And I'll crawl upstairs. And you get that and pass out up there. Well, I crawled up about 25 steps and got underneath my pillowcase, grabbed the other half gallon, drank half of that real quick. Well, at this point, I thought I could walk. And next thing I know, I stepped towards the steps and I just blacked out. I don't remember anything. And I remember waking up in the hospital, and I thought my eyes were open. I seen black. And I remember touching my face, and I'm like, I can't see nothing. It's like, am I dead? And I finally started seeing things, and the nurse was sitting right beside me. She's like, you were really lucky to be alive. And I'm like, what for? She's like, you fell down a flight of stairs. I'm like, I don't remember that. I didn't feel nothing. She's like, I don't think you did. It's like, for one thing, we had to pump your stomach. And I don't know, I think she said something about alcohol poisoning. Might have got it. I don't know. All I know is she said she had to pump my stomach. And I remember barely looking down. My neck was hurting. She's like, you broke your neck. You fractured 5 of your ribs. And I remember feeling my collarbone. And she's like, and you broke your collarbone in half. And I looked there. I'm like, I can't feel nothing. She's like, I hope you don't, because you're still up there. I'm like, all right. She sent me up here. I was in Greenville. She sent me to Miami Valley, and they did surgery on me. I got a permanent plate now on my collarbone, and I went home with a bandage over my collarbone, a rib protector over my ribs, and a neck brace. And I remember them prescribing me gabapentin and Vicodin, a 2-week supply. And I was in pain, so I took 2 weeks worth of pain pills in 3 days. And I'm like, man, I got nothing. And all of a sudden, I looked at my wallet, and I still had $300 in my wallet. I'm like, all right. Waited for my mom and my stepdad to leave the house. This is in, on 2 or 3 days later. I remember taking the neck brace off. My neck's still hurting, so I didn't hardly move my neck around. Putting the backpack on and riding my bicycle down to the marathon. Getting 2 half gallons again. I remember doing that, and I kept drinking on it. I did not know how alcoholism was strong like this. I didn't realize that. And I actually sat down after I took a couple of shots. And I'm like, I just went to a gas station, took my neck brace off. I have a broken collarbone. I got fractured ribs. It hurt riding my bicycle to that gas station. I'm like, I just asked him, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, I need help or something, or this is going to kill me. And I finally, I tried to stop on my own. I really did. I tried to go cold turkey. And I did not know that in my head, like quitting cold turkey, I'm going to go through about 4 or 5 days of shaking, throwing up. I won't be able to eat. And it's like, it was funny how this happened. I went through withdrawal for 2 days. I stayed in my room and just got out if I had to throw up. I went 2 days going through withdrawal, and all of a sudden that third day I woke up and I was normal. And that was weird. And I was like, all right. And I drank a cup of water. I kept it down. I'm like, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. Something is wrong. And I remember getting with my mom and stepdad, and they're going to go see my stepdad's friend. And on the highway, I end up having a seizure. And I've never had seizures before in my life. And I was at the hospital, and the nurse were you going through withdrawal? I'm like, yeah, I was wanting to quit cold turkey. And she looked at me, she's like, don't ever do that again. I'm like, why? She's like, that could have killed you. It's like, your body's so used to having alcohol in its system for this long, you can't go cold turkey like that. You need to go to the hospital. And she never offered me any treatment or anything else like that. So I went home, and that got me good. And I lasted for about 2-3 days, and some reason my mom, she's been in and out of relapses and all that stuff, and she had relapsed at this time again. And I remember going into her room, and she had a bottle right there, and I just remember staring at it. And by the time I wanted to leave the room, I already had that bottle in my hand, and I started drinking again. And I remember blacking out, and my stepdad wanted to call the cops, but he called the ambulance, and I went back to the hospital, and they sent me up to Miami Valley again. And 2 nurses just looked at me. She's like, you really need help. Are you willing to change? I'm like, yeah, I can't keep doing this. I can't. And I just remember looking out the window when they left, trying to get all the paperwork and stuff ready. Just looking at the window and just saying that, wow, I'm a full-blown alcoholic. And there's nothing I can do to stop this myself. I need help. And this would be the second time I was at Woodhaven. And I met a couple of guys there before. I remember meeting Haas there from the first time I was here. He was there, he surprised me. And we started talking, and I started listening to him, what he did beforehand, before he relapsed. And I was taking suggestions he was saying, and I just got to the point where I just needed to shut the hell up and listen and take suggestions. I didn't want to, but I had to. And I just started doing that, and they gave me another opportunity here at Good Shepherd. And at the beginning, I'm not going to lie, I wanted to leave again the first day I got here. And I got in my head, I'm like, I don't like change. I don't like this. I want to go back. I changed a little bit in Woodhaven. I got this. And it's just, for some reason, something in me is like, stop. Please give this a day. Give it a night. And if tomorrow, and this is like what I'm saying myself. I'm like, if it's not good tomorrow, leave. Call your mom, leave. And I promised myself, I'm like, I'm going to give me a night. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'm glad I actually talked to myself on that one, because I gave this a chance. I don't like taking chances. I don't like changing. And all of a sudden, it's weird to hear me say that. I wanted to change in my life. Because the other relapses and the other treatment centers, I would change one thing. I wouldn't change everything. I'd change the friends. I wouldn't change the places and things. I'd change the things. I wouldn't change the places and friends. I'd just change one out of the other. And just this time, I was willing to change, even though it hurt me. And I like spending time with certain family members. I had to change. I had to stay away from them for a while. And my thinking when I first got here at Good Shepherd is like, I got to change everything. I got to start over. And I gave, I've been, it was a good change so far. And I'm glad I have this opportunity to actually work on myself, work the steps, work with a sponsor, read the book, be in a healthy environment. And I'm glad I'd taken this chance because I've made so many sober, good friends here that, yes, we do play around. We mess around with each other, like talk crap to each other. But it's just for some reason, it's not like back in high school where everyone was picking on me and feeling like I have to go to the bathroom stall again and just to eat. I don't feel like that anymore. It's weird saying this, but it's coming from a good heart. Them talking smack to me and all that stuff. And the funny thing is, I could take it. And I'm getting back to my military mentality. As to where this place, it's being here. I felt beaten up, and I'm getting brought back up again in a healthy way. And there's been some days here that in the past I would have relapsed. I would have went down to the gas station or somewhere and got alcohol. There's been a couple of times I felt like that. But now I have sober friends to talk to with that. I got Trapped to talk to about that. If there's something on my mind, I can go to somebody. I have a sponsor where I can read the book, and I actually got stuff I have in my toolbox that I can actually flip open and use. And I never thought I would have that. I thought I was always hopeless. And it's just, my thinking is different this time. And I'm starting to see how good of a person I am. How I'm worth it. How some of my words or something I speak, it might change somebody. Someone might actually listen. So I watch what I say. And it's just all the morals and values are coming back to me on everything. And I was like at this point, I don't have to take it. I quit taking medications. Because honestly, I don't think I need medications. I don't. And I've been off them for a couple of years, even the VA medications they gave me for my PTSD and stuff like that. Yeah, I got some flashbacks and stuff like that, but I actually have like a telecom to talk to my therapist and all that stuff. But this year, it's been really good for me, and I love the change. And I'm starting to learn that change is good instead of change being bad. Instead of like, oh, no, I don't want that. I want to stay here. I want to stay in the suck. I just want to stay in the suck over here instead of coming over here, and that change might be good, and actually taking that chance. And I love it. And here soon on December 15th, I'll have a year. I've never seen that. And it's gotten to the point where I actually have the thought in my head that since I'm so far along in sobriety, there's that, I ultimately have the choice now. I've been in here for a while now. It's either I want this or I don't. It's either my life or death. And I have them choices. And being that close to death, I don't want it. I don't want death because I don't like the unknown. I don't want that feeling anymore of waking up in a hospital seeing black. I don't like it. I don't love it. I'd rather feel uncomfortable doing something good that might help someone out instead of, if someone hurts me, I'm like, I can hurt you by hurting myself. I can't do that anymore. But it's just, I'm really glad I gave this a chance this time, because it's turning out to be something great in my life that I can actually look back and say, hey, look, I accomplished this, this, and this, and this. Instead of, well, that's an accomplishment, but look at all the bad things that happened that day. No, because the pros outweigh the cons anymore. And I'm getting to the point where, like, stuff does get me mad, but at the same time, if I take about 10 minutes to just calm down, I can get over it and just not hold like a resentment towards anybody or anything. And as long as I call my sponsor every day, in-house and outside the house, I'm good. As long as I read the book and I'm doing something, not isolating or thinking negative, I can live my life to the fullest. And that right there, I'm grateful for, that Trap gave me a second chance here. That I can actually do everything I'm wanting to do. It might come to me slowly, but the way my thinking now is, everything is coming to me slowly, I've worked for. And I'm grateful for that. And that's pretty much my story from there until now, and I hope it continues.